Welcome to my garage today, ladies and gentlemen, where today we are going to be changing a line set out on my Valkyrie canopy. Why would you need to change lines out? For those of you who don't know, generally speaking, canopies are good for anywhere between 1,500 to maybe 3,000 jumps. The actual canopy material is going to last that long before it starts degrading and whatnot. The lines, however, only last, depending on what kind of lines you get, they can last anywhere from 300 jumps on the high performance end to maybe 700 jumps or so. And so you change out line sets a little bit quicker than you can actually change out a canopy. So a canopy in its overall lifespan will go through maybe, you know, anywhere from maybe 3 to 5, 6, 7 line sets, right? So this is going to be the first one that I'm actually doing, and I'm doing it on my own canopy just to make sure that, you know, I know exactly what I'm doing before I start doing it for other people. I just got my rigger's ticket back in September. It's been a few months since I've had that, been working on reserves and all that kind of stuff. I'm actually super excited to do this. I've shadowed a few of these before and just doing line sets with other people, and so I know how to do it. It's just I've never actually done one by myself. Yeah. So here's what we're looking at. These lines are a little bit older, and you probably can't tell in the video, but they're just a little bit frayed. The openings are getting a little bit more spicy, and so the trim may be going out slightly. Here is the brand new line set that I've got from Thrill Inc. The black is going to be the actual lines, and the little red tabs right here are the slinks, which end up connecting it. So typically every time you do a line set, you change out these slinks too. So yeah, step one is to cut all these lines off. So here's what we're looking at here. How these are all attached is called a lark's head, and basically what happens, it's just a loop in the actual line itself, but we go through here, up and around, and then the line goes through itself. So basically what we have to do to undo it is basically just loosen up, and then once we have a little bit extra here, all we do is we end up cutting this line right here. If you just cut the line right here, it's still cinched down on itself here, and so it makes it a little bit more difficult, but basically you just got to loosen it up, cut this, and so I got to do that on all of these lines now. It's a lot of lines. It's like 32 lines, something like that. So I'm going to do that now. All right, so got all them snipped off. No more lines on the canopy. All right, chain linked it all up nice. And now the next step to do is get rid of these slinks, which I've already kind of started to do. So let's get those off too. Old lines are off completely, and we are ready to install the new line set. So get this out of the bag. When you order a new line set, I bought slinks as well to replace those are basically the connector links between the risers and the lines themselves. You see them there. So I got brand new ones of those. I'm not sure if I'm going to use those yet. I may use those. We'll see. Anyways, and the new lines are going to be, so they look all nice and shiny. They're all labeled and everything, but we also need to know where to put them. So let's go ahead and take this out, and we have what is called a line trim chart right here for a Valkyrie, anything from a 67 to a 103. And so all of these are going to be the different line lengths on everything, and it'll show you A1, A2, A3, A4, all that kind of stuff basically. So we're going to be looking for, mine is a VK79. We kind of just use this as a reference. So if you look up here, this is going to be A1, so the canopy is actually upside down right now, hanging by the tail. So we're looking at it basically this way. Either way, starts in the center and work outwards. So A is at the front, the very nose, and then A is in this, the 1 is in the center. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's B lines, C lines, D lines, and your brake lines are control lines. Okay, I ordered this line set from Thrill Inc., and so it's line set for VK79, and the number 1 line is going to be the center cell, just like it shows right there. So A1, B1, C1, and it's basically symmetrical from the center out. So it comes in different sets here. We're going to kind of just get an idea of what we're looking at here. So you can see he's all labeled here. So these are all going to be our C lines, and then these are going to be our A lines, I think. Let me see, what does it say? No, it actually said these are the control lines, so these are going to be the brake lines. Those are the ones that we'll end up installing last. And then over here, we've got a bunch of the connector ones. So these are going to be our B and D lines. There's no labels on them. They just go straight into the C, the A's and the C lines. Okay, so these are gonna be our A lines right here. So when we lay out the A lines, you can see that they're labeled A1, 2, 3, 4, and then this side is going to be the canopy side. And so what ends up happening is on the A lines, we're gonna look down here and you can see that there's little marks on them here. So here's a mark, here's one right here. And basically this mark is where all of the other lines are going to splice into, these bulk lines right here. So we've got continuous lines, which are going to be the A's, everything up front, and then we use these unmarked lines here as all of the B's, and the B lines will splice into the A lines at these marks right here. Same with the C lines. So he doesn't mark the B or D lines. Basically what ends up happening is we're gonna string up all of the A lines first. We're then gonna string up all of the C lines because those are the only ones that are labeled. And then all of the other lines we're gonna splice into each other. So all of the B lines will get spliced into the A lines at those marks, and all of the D lines will get spliced into the C lines at those marks. So yeah, let's get those all larks headed in. All right, so even though I am doing this canopy basically upside down, I know that the front of the canopy is gonna be the A lines and the center of them is going to be the number 1 line. So if we follow the label, or basically the center of the canopy, we're gonna go all the way down, and then what we'll do is work our way from the inside out. And so this one will be A1, this one will be A2, and this one will be A3, A4, etc. That's what we're gonna do first. I'm gonna string up, these things come in pairs, and so you can see that on A1 right here, there's 2 lines, right? So whenever I pull A1 off, we're gonna do basically the 2 center cells. Once I get to A2, we're gonna do the 2 next ones, and then A3, A4, basically like that. And we're gonna do those with both the A and the C lines. All right, so I've got both A1 lines, and we're gonna go to the center. I'm gonna keep all the labels on one side. So we're gonna go center cell, very front, and this one is gonna be the front. So we're basically gonna push it in there from the front to the back, and then we're going to basically just bring it back up and around, and larks head it down, just like that. And now there is a loop-de-loop around that front one, and we'll just cinch it down just like so. So we got our center cell, we're going back down, and then to this one here, this is gonna be our 1 line. So basically what we do is we take this loop, and we are going to open this up just a tad, and basically push it through there just like so, from the front to the back. And then through this, we'll basically just bring this all the way through. And so once we pull it all the way through, and then it's basically looped around there just like that, and you can pull it down, and then it will go right here around this. It's hard to do this with one hand. And then pull it down just like that. That one's set. So we got both of our A lines here, and I'm gonna keep these labels on here just so I can double check everything afterwards. And so now all we're gonna do is from here, the center one is the A, so we're gonna work the A. So this is gonna be A2, this is gonna be A3 right here, and this is gonna be A4, I believe. I'll double check the chart, but yep, that's how we do it. Cool, so now that we've got all those done, it's easier just to double check. We got A1 right here, that's the center, boom. A2 is gonna be the next one out, boom. A2, the one on the corner, it's gonna be A3, boom. And then the number 1 stabilizer up front is going to be A4. And what we can do is just confirm that on here. So we've got A1, A2, A3, and A4 on the side stabilizer there. So now the B lines are gonna go next. Actually, I'll go ahead and do the C lines next. So we're gonna go basically starting from the center as well. So C1, C2, C3, and C4. So let me grab my C lines, which are going to be on my C lines. And we're basically gonna do the same thing, starting with, we don't have to go to this, I mean, we're gonna go to the center cell, but basically this is gonna be our D line attachment point, and then we're gonna go here. This is our C line attachment point. This is our B's. So we're gonna start here and then work all the way out that way. Cool, so all these C lines are up. We got our A lines here, our B lines here, our C lines here in the center cell. So we're just gonna make sure, we're gonna look at C1, and then actually this channel kind of, or this line, this seam right here kind of follows it all the way to the end. So it's actually pretty easy to kind of figure out. So all right, we got C1 here, let's follow it over. Next one is gonna be C2, Cool. Following it over, C3 should be here. Cool. And then all the way up to the end here is going to be C4, where I've got it between the B and A ones here. So this is going to be C4. Yep, sweet. Yeah, so the next is to do basically the B line section, which is going to be this middle front section, and then the D section, which is going to be the D line section, which is going to be these guys right here. Those are all going to be just unmarked because they're all the same length. It basically just, they meet in the middle. It's called a cascade. And so we're just going to string these up for now, and then I'm going to show you how we end up splicing them together here in a second. So now we get to the part that's a little bit more difficult on the brake lines. These are actually already taken care of. So we're going to be basically doing the same splicing method that we kind of are on between the A's and B's and the B's and C's. But I'm going to go ahead and do these at the end. I'm just going to show you real quick of how they go though. So looking at this line term chart, you see that the center cell is A1, 2, 3, 4, right? It comes from the center in. The brake lines actually do the opposite. The end is going to be the 1. This is going to be the 2, and this is going to be on the 3rd, technically like this 3rd seam. This is just a little cross brace kind of thing, or an extra rib. So this is going to be number 4, this is going to be number 5, 6, 7, and 8 is going to be right there. And so you can see that the brake lines are going to be 3, 5, and 8. They actually count from the outside in. I'm not sure why they do that. Probably because it's easier to have a reference point rather than trying to figure out what's from the middle outwards. Either way, yeah, so we're going to basically do those at the very end. After I've gotten all of these finger trapped together, that's basically what's going to happen. So let me show you how to finger trap. So center cell here, this is going to be our D1 line. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way down to the D1 line and go to the very end. And you can see, if I zoom in right here, you can see that there's that little mark, right? There is going to be a corresponding mark on the C1 as well. And so if we come all the way down here, he only marks it on one side. So basically there's your C1 line as well. And so what's going to happen is that basically once we have that mark and that mark, we're going to line them up right here. And then the D line is going to go inside of the C line. And I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. But you'll notice here, this is actually a really interesting thing. You'll notice that the C line is thicker than the D line here. And that's because these are going to be HMA 600 lines and these are going to be HMA 400s, I believe. And this is called a hybrid construction because basically everything below on the C line goes directly down to the riser. So all of the load of these 2 lines right here are going to be transferred into this one line, which goes all the way down to the riser. However, when it hits the cascade, all of the pressure from this area is only going to be on this one line, right? So you've got all of this pressure going to the C line right here all the way down to the bottom. I hope I'm explaining this good. But basically once it splits, the cascade, the load is split half and half here. And so you don't need as much or as large of a line on each individual line. So I hope I explained that. If I didn't, just, I don't know, just follow along. But yeah, basically what we're gonna do is end up routing this entire D line inside of this C line. And what ends up happening is it's called a finger trap because you can see that this is kind of braided. It almost looks like if you cut it in half, it's almost like a Chinese finger trap if you stick your fingers in either side of it, right? Those little toys that we used to play with as kids. So basically what happens whenever there's load on it, this will stretch. It will stretch, and what it'll do is it'll contract. And since the C line or the D line is inside of the C line, it will actually contract around it, and it is extremely, extremely strong. And you can see that here in the bottom side of it. This is basically a loop, and what happens is, if I can zoom in here, you can see that on this side it goes up and around and then basically back through itself, and this little thing is here to secure it. The majority of the load is actually going to be taken care of by the finger trap mechanism itself. You don't really even need these bar tacks or these stitch lines in here for strength purposes. The finger trap will actually cinch itself together, and the heavier the load it gets on it, the more it'll squeeze down around itself. And these stitches are really just to keep the finger trap in place so that it doesn't move when there's no load on it. And so the majority of the load is handled from the actual finger trap method. And so what will end up happening is when this D line is inside of the C line, once there's tension on it, basically the C line is squeezing around the D line and it keeps it together. Like I said, the stitches that we're gonna put in there are only to keep it secured when there is actually no load on it. So it's super, super fascinating how these things work, but yeah, we'll end up basically finger trapping it first, and then we'll put the stitches in a little bit later. So how do you get the D lines inside of the C lines? Well, we're gonna use this little tool. It's called a FID, basically. And so this is actually homemade. I 3D printed this little circle thing, and this is actually a guitar string. And so basically I fold it in half, and there's basically just a little loop at the end of it. The entire thing is pretty much a loop. And what you do is you feed it in lower than where you need it, pop out where you need it, which will be at that silver mark. We'll put the D line inside of this thing after this thing has been fished through the C line, and then we'll pull it back through. We'll line up both of those marks, and then that's when we're going to end up basically putting that stitch in it. So I'll show you that a little bit closer here. All right, I've got some scrap line here. I'm going to show you a little bit closer how the whole finger trapping thing works. So this is going to be our A line or our C line, right? And I've put a little bit of a mark right on there. You can see that, okay? And then same thing with this one here. So this is going to be our mock B line or D line, right? I put a mark on there as well. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to use our tool, and we're going to, from here, I usually line it up about right there. So I'm trying to keep this in frame. And then we're basically going to go into it like this. Boom, just like that. And we're going to go into it. And then sometimes it's going to get a little bit difficult. And then we're just going to push it all the way through until we get right kind of about there, and then we're gonna push it right through. I'm trying to keep this centered and do this at the same time. So we're gonna pull that right through like this, and then on our B line or D line, basically go through and go like this. Actually make a little bit of a hook in it, and then all we gotta do is pull. That goes through there, and then it's easy to just pull right there. And then what I end up doing is we're gonna pull, you see how this line is actually gonna go inside of it. So I'm gonna keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling until it's inside of it, until it comes out the bottom. And that gives me a little bit of something to kind of have just to manipulate it. So then these are how all of the lines are right now, okay? So I'll pick that up later, but I'll kind of show you kind of what I do here. So I've got my sewing machine here, and then what we're going to end up doing, I made this little jig. This is recommended by PD. Basically, instead of just putting a line right here in your sewing machine, this is something that it ends up going like that, and then you can slide it a little bit better because the feet on the sewing machine don't pull just the line through, so you kind of have to pull everything together. So on my sewing machine, I've got it set to I think this is either double or triple stitch at, I don't know what that value is, but basically I'll show you what it looks like here in a second. Sometimes you can do zigzags, sometimes you can do straight stitches and go a few back and forth, but this setting basically just does one stitch, one stitch, one stitch, one stitch, one stitch, one stitch, and it just kind of moves it along, okay? All right, bad camera angle, I know, but this is gonna be easier. We're gonna start on the center cell, so basically the A1, and I'm gonna basically just milk all of the twists out just that we get a solid base. We're gonna milk all the twists out till we find that mark, and that mark is gonna be right here. I'm gonna take my FID, and I'm gonna go about a FID's length down, and we're going to pop into the line right here. I'm going to push it together just to break that braid apart. And so these lines are tubular, and so it's a tubular braid, and so we're just going to feed that right inside the center of it. Helps if you work with gravity. So we're just going to pop out right at the mark that we have here. You can see that the mark is right on either side where we've popped out of there. And now what we're gonna do is the same thing over here. We're gonna milk all the twists out of this B line. And it's gonna be closer to the end there. I see the mark right here. Basically just gonna feed that through the loop of the FID, and we're gonna create a little bit of a hook on that one, just so that it gives it something to
grab onto. And then we're just gonna feed this entire thing back up and over on top of this, right? So it's just gonna be basically pull all the way down. And what I've found works best is if you pull it even further of the way through. So that mark is probably somewhere in the center of this finger trap now. But I've found that it works a little bit better if you just leave it. So now what we're gonna do is basically just kind of milk all the excess out here. I still have this right here, but I kind of want that for right now. And so the mark of the beeline is probably somewhere in here. I just found it's a little bit easier once I go to the sewing machine, and then I can back it off just a little bit until I see the mark in it, and it ends up working good. So like I said, this is the A-line that I'm pulling on. If I pull this tight like this, it's cinching down around that B line, and so the B line will not move at all. So I'm pulling on both of them, and it's pretty dang solid. Basically, all we gotta do is all of the A's and B's are gonna go together, and then all of the C's and D's are gonna go together. So that's gonna take a minute. So I'll basically get back done. I'll be back when I'm done with that. All right, so all of the finger traps are in. Like I said, I've left a little bit of excess on the end. The mark of the spliced in line is somewhere in the middle here, and basically what that allows me to do is once I get to the sewing machine, I'll loosen up on the finger trap, pull it out to where I can match both of the marks out, and then basically put it in the sewing machine, make a small stitch, and it's good to go. That's where we're at now, and I think I'm gonna take a little bit of a break because this is a pain in the butt, honestly. It's fun because I enjoy this kind of stuff. I enjoy just the principles and like the physics and like the mechanics of how all this stuff works, but it's kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. So yeah, I'm gonna take a break, and then I'll show you the sewing part tomorrow. Later. All right, cool. So we're back on the sewing machine here, and so you can see that this is the thinner one. The thinner line is going to be my B or D line. And so, like I said, the mark is somewhere in here, okay? And so basically what I need to do, we've got the mark of the larger line right here, but the smaller line, we need to line that mark up as well. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna pull this and give the finger trap just some slack in there so that we can move the other line back and forth. And what's gonna happen is I'm gonna pull on this. I'll zoom in here for you. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna keep pulling this line until we have the mark on the larger line, but the line on the inside is not there yet. So we're just gonna keep pulling this until I end up seeing those lines mark, or those marks line up. There it is. Cool. So we have those lines, both marks lined up, and so then all I got to do is kind of just milk all of the excess. Let me zoom back out. And all I got to do is basically just hold that right there so that both of these lines are where they're supposed to be, and then I'm just going to milk the excess down this way. And what ends up happening, since we went a little bit longer, the end of this line that is inside actually gets completely encased in the larger line now, and so that's how that finger trap is starting to work. So if I pull, this one, if I pull this together, it's squeezing around the line that we just put inside of it, and so once we pull it here, we actually, the top line is not going to come out at all. Now, the only thing that we have left to do is go ahead and basically put a stitch in right here, and that's, like I said, just to keep it in place. So I've marked these off on my little jig right here, and so we're going to line up the mark with this dot right here. And my sewing machine is already taken care of here with E-thread, and so let's put that underneath. And this is just an example of what I'm going to be doing with all of the other lines here. So what we're going to do, I don't want it right on the marks, I want it slightly below, and so I'm going to use this one as a reference here. And so we're going to push that just above, and then we're going to basically just line that right up with the bigger dot that's right there. So I think that this looks good. I'm gonna lower the needle down into it. Yeah, I think that this is pretty good, and it's right centered. Actually, it could be moved over just a tad this way and back down. Cool, I like this. I got a fresh needle in there, nice and sharp. Cool. So basically I'm just going to, the needle is in there, and basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it all the way down to this mark right here. So nice and slow. Should be good to go, and once we pull it back out, it actually looks pretty good. And so what we're gonna do now is with my little snips, where are they at? Basically all we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, just cut off the ends there, cut off the end here, and then cut off this end here, right there. And that is ready to go pretty much. There's usually just a little bit of fuzz that's sticking out. That's not really a huge issue. Yeah, the next step is to do that on basically all of the lines, and then we'll end up going and jumping it. Yeah, I really like how this stitch comes out. It looks really good. There's some other ones. Let's see, if I do, I'm gonna put a zigzag in here and kind of show you how that works. And so I'm gonna throw the zigzag in there and see what that looks like really fast. And so we'll just go that way. We can go 1.5, and then we're gonna back stitch just for a second, and then we'll just go forward. And then we will back stitch again here, and cut it. Cool. So the zigzag actually looks pretty dang cool. I like that a lot, but like I said, it's just not as consistent, and you don't really need much more than this. So, and that's basically what I'm gonna do with all of the lines on my canopy.
So canopy's on the table here. All of the lines are gonna go this way, and basically all I'm gonna do is just take these one by one, put them through the sewing machine, put them off to that side, and we should be good to go. Then I'm gonna do the break lines, which I haven't, but let's get the main part of it done first, and then once that's all done and checked, then we can do the line set, or the break lines individually.
All right, so we got the last line here. No going back now, I guess. Just lining it up like this. I put it in my mouth so it's easier to pull back and forth. Right there, lined up. Put it in there. Make sure that it's right in the center. Cool. And cut. And all my lines are good.
So outside of the break lines or the control lines, all of the cascades are done. The cascade is when it splits into two. So all of these cascades are pretty good. I think that they actually look really stinking good for this homemade little machine. It is a Singer heavy duty. I got all kinds of different stuff in here. So control lines are next, and those are actually a little bit different because they have to go up, around. There's no lark's head on the brake line, and then they feed back through themselves. So I'll show you that. So now I've got the canopy laid upside down. This is going to be the trailing edge, and then the label is going to be here in the center. Let's see where it is here. So basically what I'm looking at is, let me grab the line trim.
So we got the line trim chart here. I've got it laid out pretty much the exact same way. So like I said, this needs to go on the seam number 3, seam number 5, and seam number 8. So this is right here. I've got it laid down upside down. So this is 3, this is 5, and this is 8 over here. And they're a little bit different. You can see that the dots on them actually, let me zoom in here. So they've got 2 dots in them, and basically it just loops around like that. And you have to match the lines up, or match the marks up, and then bar tack it or sew it there. So let's do that. So slit it through. You see both of the marks there and there. Basically, it's just going to go together.
All right, one control line is done. All of them are in the right place, and basically we're just gonna move down the canopy. I started on this side. We're just gonna move past the label. This is the center cell, and this is the bottom skin, obviously. And so this one is going to be number 8 now, and then we go 8, 5, 3, wherever the other 2 are. So let's go. All right, so we are done. Last brake line is here. Control line number 3, I think I got that right. Yep, ULC 3. So yeah, the only thing left to do is hang it all up, get it on slinks, basically check continuity, which means making sure all the lines are in the right place, and then yeah, hooking it up to my canopy and jumping it. So stay tuned for that.
So the next step is to get everything on slinks. Once we have it on slinks, we can hook it up to the risers and actually put tension on everything. That tension is going to create a little bit more separation between the lines. And so once we do that, it'll be easier to check all of the bar tacks, not only the ones that I've done, but also the ones that Thrill Inc did, like you know, this right here, because I didn't do these bar tacks. They put the loops in them. The only bar tacks or the only stitches that I put in are going to be at the cascades and then basically the brake lines up here. So let's get everything on slinks, and to do that, what we need to do is basically take, you know, the cascades like this and make sure that there's no twists in the lines. So what I'm going to do is basically run my fingers all the way down here, getting all of the twists out, and then all the way to the end. And once there is no twists in them, then I'm going to put the slink through there and then hook it up to the risers. So yeah, let's do that.
All right, so I got them on slinks now, and it looks like everything's good. I probably didn't do this in the most organized way, but either way, we got to the same result. Basically, the C and D lines are on one slink, and the A and B lines are on another, and nothing is tangled. So that's really what matters. That's what we're looking for, right? I have the brake lines up there, just kind of out of the way for a while, because they have nothing to do with slinks, and so. Yeah, so now we're going to do the slinks. This is going to be the C and D line group. And let me set my camera up so I can get a better view for it. So here's how you end up doing slinks. There's no twists in the risers here. This is the rear riser, so these are going to be the C and D lines. And so what we're going to end up doing with these slinks, these have gone through the loops of the C and D lines. So we're going to take the riser. We're going to go through it once. We've gone through the riser once, and now what we're going to do is pass through the line group once again, making sure that all of the slink goes through the line group twice. And you can check that by seeing if you go, if you pull it like this, and you flip it over, you can see that there's only lines. So the slink has gone through the line loops here twice, and then we're going to go through the riser a second time. So basically we're making 2 full turns around, and then we're going to stitch it down just a little bit. And now where a lot of people make mistakes is they'll just put this over the top. Not a good idea. So what we're going to do is, how slinks are designed to be used is you pinch this, and this little tab right here, you're going to want to go through this little tab first underneath, slide it through there, and then we're going to go around the tab. And so that basically makes it very, very difficult for these guys to come undone. Some guys even tack them down, but basically we're lark's heading it kind of around the tab itself. So the tighter it gets, the more that it's going to cinch down on itself. What we're going to do then is basically put the tab and hide it in here so that it's not a snag hazard from the slider that happens. And I've already got my slider RDS rings on here, so normally you would have a slider on there and all that kind of stuff. But basically, yeah, that's how it ends up being. And so you can see that the slink goes through the lines twice. And we're going to do a continuity check one more time. Yeah, it looks good up there. And so now we do the same with the fronts, is doing the brake lines. So I can do the same thing on the other side. But let me go grab the brake lines really fast here. And then what we're going to want to do is make sure that there's no twists in them. So what we have here is we're going to go through this guide ring. First of all, you must go through the guide ring. And then what we're going to do is go take the toggle. We're going to go through the toggle from the back side of it, and then up and around this entire thing. So we're kind of lark's heading it as well. And so it's just going to go around this entire thing. Pull it down. This whole thing is going to go through it. I found that it's easier if you put this pin flat that way, and then just basically slide that all the way down, and you can kind of see what's happening here. As we pull it, it's not going to come undone without actually having to go all the way around this entire thing. Cool, so I've gotten all the twists out of it already, and then we're just going to set our brakes like normal. And I like it coming from the inside out, so we're just going to push it through there like so, and then see the toggle like it normally should go. Cool, just like this. Yeah, looks good.
So let me do the slinks on the other side, slinks and toggle on the other side, and then we're gonna double check everything. So we are done. Basically everything, the only thing left to do now is just to double check everything. So let me turn the camera around, and we're gonna go ahead and check all of the bar tacks here, just an overall inspection. So we're looking here, 1, 2, 3, 4, got all the bar tacks in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, got all the bar tacks in there. And these are the ones that I did not do. So these came from Thrill Inc, how he did it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, all looks good. On the brake lines, we're looking for 3. So there's 1 there, and then 2. So it's 1, 2 right there. So those look good. I've already checked these, but basically 1, and then 1, 2 there. That looks good too. So let's go ahead and check on these as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick check of all of these. So 1, 2, yeah, basically all of these. I'm gonna shut the camera off and do this again. But basically, I'm going to check all of the bar tacks that he's done, and then all of the ones on the Cascades as well. So on the Cascades, we're looking at the ones that I did. So these are going to be basically where the lines meet together. And so just checking that they're all there, that everything is seated properly, that there's no excess sticking out here. Like I said, there's a line inside of here. And so I can feel that there's nothing there. But that's what we're gonna check, and then I'm gonna do one more check on continuity as well, and should be ready. All right, so just did a continuity check on everything, and ended up finding out I actually routed one of these lines through this Cascade, so definitely good that I caught that. But overall, everything looks good, and yeah, let's take it outside and jump it. Woo! So this is the moment of truth for the line set that I installed. If you've watched this far, thanks for watching. Con, is my line set gonna work?
I don't know, but we're gonna find out, brother. Let's go. Comments below, is it gonna work?
Alright. I'm just gonna do a high pull. I'm gonna take a delay of about 1,000 feet. So take it to this terminal and boom. Hopefully it works. Yeah, it should.
Hey, check it out, Chet. His line set worked. Let's see if it makes him swoop better. Swoop just a little bit better. Gold stars!
Look at that, they're all still intact. Well, this one is at least. So I'm gonna do a quick inspection on all of them, hang it up when I get home. And yeah, thanks for changing the line set with me, guys. I have a video idea. You guys are all gonna look like Megamind. Hold on. Yeah. Ah! See, now we probably all look like Megamind right now.
My head is kind of big already.
Yeah, mine too, especially after that swoop.
It was the line set.
Yeah, that's what it was. I got racing stripes in the line set.